Hi, my name is Chrissy Clements. Everyone watches AccessTV.org.
Welcome to another segment of All Politics is Local with your host, RJo Winch. Today I have with me State Representative Matt Ritter from the 1st District and also Victor Luna from Luna Productions, who is a community activist and also working with another state rep in the 4th District, Angel RC. And because this is AccessTelevision.org, we're talking about all politics is local, things that are happening in your community, how you will greatly be impacted, and what some of the elected officials are talking about that are in your district. So we'll get right to the talk and make sure that all of you join in regularly to AccessTV.org to see what is going on. There's many programs. Make sure that you tune in to All Politics is Local. So we're going to start with our representative, Matt Ritter. So what's been going on, Matt?
Not much. How you doing? And thanks for having me on, and Access TV for letting us be here. And good to see my friend Victor. And we're doing well. About less than 3 weeks to go. We were out today on Vine Street. We had a nice pizza party. We raised an American flag. We were out door knocking. It's really that time of year, and so it's great to have this show and remind people every vote's going to count. Particularly in the state of Connecticut, it's going to be close in the various elections, and hopefully people make sure they come out November 6th.
And people need to know in the state of Connecticut that the Democrats are on row B. Yeah. In other states, it might be in other places, but make sure that you look for Obama and go straight across that row, because we need to make sure that we get all Democrats in office and bring everybody that you know out on November the 6th to vote. Those people who cannot stand for more than 2 hours outside in long lines might consider getting an absentee ballot because of their illness if they're unable to. And so what's been going on with you, Mr. Luna?
Well, thank you. Congratulations on your show, and I'm glad to be here. And we're here to talk about the row B and not the row A, Obama. And I'm here on behalf of Angel RC, who couldn't make it. He had an emergency, but he will be here the next one for sure. And we're gonna get more into that and talk about the row B in the city and how we blacks, whites, Latinos are getting together to represent the city, the state, and row B.
Yeah, we live in a multicultural nation, so people have to less think about, who they are, what their ethnicity are, and talk about what the issues that are important to everyone. Right. So how important is it, Matt, for people to vote Democrat this year?
Well, let's just take nationally for an example. Obviously, I think we're all big supporters of President Obama, and right now it looks good in Connecticut, right? You never take polls to be an exact science, but the numbers look good. But here's a question that people forget: this United States Senate campaign. I've heard a lot of, McMahon Murphy's been very close, been a real battle. You got to remember that the president's got to work with the House and the Senate. Exactly. So if you give the president a Republican-controlled House and Senate, which right now is a Republican-controlled House only, and we see how terrible that's been, the stuff they've done. Now imagine if the United States Senate is Republican as well, how much harder it is for President Obama to do his job. So one thing you can say about Linda McMahon is that if she wins, she's not going to caucus with the Democrats. She's going to caucus with the Republicans. That's something everyone's got to think about. If you're a fan of the president's, like you said, it's very important to continue that row on row B and not, bullet point.
Absolutely, because this is not a country that's under a dictatorship. Remember, we're elected rule and it's representative government. So if you want the president to be able to put issues together that are important to poor people like us, then we got to make sure that we send him people who are on the ground, who will knock on your doors, people who that you can reach out to that he can get a consensus on what needs to be happening for you. I was watching the debate, both of them I watched, the presidential debate, and I watched Joe Biden, Joe Biden, you know, and people would say, well, he was laughing too much. No, I agree with Joe. It was just ridiculous to hear Ryan sit there and say those things with a straight face. Yeah. And so he was interjecting. Sometimes you would hear him saying, oh, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. And even the commentator asked him directly the question about his budget. He still couldn't give her an answer on what that was, what those cuts looked like, and what that meant, you know, to the American people and people like you and I. And I don't know any woman who would cast a vote for somebody who says that you're not going to have control over what's happening with your body. You and your husband, your significant other, should have those discussions and then make a decision. It's not the government's part. And I like the part where Joe Biden said that he's a Catholic. He can't impose his Catholic views on everybody else and what they do with, you know, what's theirs. So what are some of the things that you're talking about, you know, with your campaign and as you go out talk to people?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you the things you hear about, obviously the economy and jobs, and people want to know about that. But we did a lot of good things the last 2 years. You know, my first 2 years of the General Assembly in Connecticut that we've been waiting a long time for. The elimination of the death penalty, which clearly has socioeconomic and racial undertones in terms of who gets sentenced to death based on the juries and everything like that. And how many times we see mistakes happen, right, where people get exonerated because of DNA evidence. So the fact that you actually had a law that you can't undo. Once someone's executed, they're executed. That was a good step. The Earned Income Tax Credit, which is now new in Connecticut, for people who are working, again, it's an opportunity for the more hours that you work to get more revenue based on, you know, getting income tax returns basically for what you pay in if you're under a certain income level. All these kinds of things that we did are progressive ideas that Democrats were waiting a long time to do. And it was great. And we balanced our budget. I mean, the problem when you hear about Mitt Romney at the debates is he says we got a deficit. Okay, we had a deficit, but how are you going to balance it? And with Connecticut, what we did is we realized that adults enter the room and you can't cut everywhere. You can't cut the safety net. And you do have to raise revenue. But both things are on the table. You don't raise revenue for all of it, and you don't make cuts for all of it. You find a balance.
Collaboration.
And that's what we did in Connecticut, and I think that's the tone that the president wants to set. If you make more than $1 million, you may pay a little more. Right. You're going to be okay at the end of the day. You'll be all right. Your family will be okay.
Exactly. And you should pay, because you talk about taxes. Taxes are a percentage of income. So if 7% of my income is different than 7% of yours and 7% of yours. So if I'm making trillions of dollars, 7% in the dollar is going to be more. Right. If I'm making $50,000 a year, 7%, of course I'm going to pay more. Right. So it's equal sacrifice. You pay whatever the tax percentage is that you pay. So yeah, people are going to have varying amounts. And then if you have children, you get tax credits. If you're small business, micro businesses, there's other cuts that you get. And then what are some of the issues that people were talking about, like jobs, you know, in our community? I was hearing, I can't remember if it was Governor Romney or Ryan that was saying something about creating jobs where people go and get skills to do the work. I'm like, why does that sound like the Obama jobs program? You know, it sounded a lot like the Obama's work program.
Yeah. Trying to reinvent the wheel?
Or say they're inventing what he's already done.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? You want to hop on the wheel and take it over like it's your idea that you brought it up and it's something that you designed. We just want to remind you all that you are listening and watching accesstv.org. You can contact us there. I think the email information is probably going to be on the screen. So if you want to sponsor the show, you want to be a guest on the show, you can contact us there at accesstv.org. We're talking about All Politics is Local today with RJo Winch, your host. I have Matt Ritter from the 1st District, State Rep, and also Victor Luna, who is an assistant to Angel RC, who's running for the 4th District, State Rep in the state of Connecticut, and also from Luna Productions.
That's right. I want to talk about I want to thank the Obama administration for giving us $1 billion to Pedro Sagata,
the mayor of the city of Hartford.
So where is that money going to go to?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. I mean, obviously right now one of the big things is downtown and the Bushnell Park. I know the mayor's, the I-Quilt has been a big thing down here. But also there's been a lot of exciting stuff going on. I mean, actually probably one of the biggest projects right now in the hopper has been some of the stuff with the Housing Authority as well. A lot of people know Nelton Court is being reconstructed right now. Westbrook and Bowles, which is going to be a very large project, is another one that is finally going to get some federal dollars and some state and city dollars. So there's a lot of exciting things going on that are long overdue and need to be done. So.
But look at the fantastic fantastic
Obama.
job. Yeah, thank you, Obama, President Obama.
That's right.
President Obama.
President.
You know, he is the president. But yeah, because look at how fantastic job that they did over in Stowe Village. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's like packed. You know, people are it's rent to own.
Yep.
So, and even if you have issues with your credit while you're renting, they're helping you prepare your credit so that you're able to purchase the home and stay in there as if you would any other place. You know, you buy a home, you plan to be there
You
for
own
the
it,
long
you
term.
treat it better, and you're there forever.
Exactly.
Compared to when you rent it.
Exactly. One of the things that I think that we have in Hartford, where we live in the communities where it's very transit, people don't take care of it because it's not there. So, and if you don't like it, you know, you relocate to another place.
And then if you're stuck by the laws and you have to live there 6 months or a year, of course you're going to mess it up and not care for it.
Yeah, people transition, you know, in and out of it too much time, and it costs the landlord a lot to keep the properties up. So speaking of properties, there are a lot of vacant properties, you know, going on around in our city, in the city of Hartford. And I know that there's some foreclosure programs. There's also some programs out there for individuals who want to be first-time home buyers, low interest rates, because this property needs to be bought. It's at no advantage to the city to have those properties go unvacant, because we all know unvacant properties become blighted properties, and things happen in communities that should not be happening just because there's not a lot of you know, human capital, human traffic in those places. So some of the things that we were doing today, like Matt Ritter said, we went over to the senior center.
Yeah, it was
at
great.
51 Vine Street. We replaced the flag. The fire department came out and assisted us in raising the flag, which they were very happy to receive, having been, you know, months, close to a year with no flag. They were so grateful.
Since the snowstorm, they said,
Yeah,
last year, the big
so
storm,
they, they were so grateful. So I was joking with him. I said, I know he looks like a high school kid, but he's our state rep. So, you know, we're going to make sure we get some gray hairs on that head by
Eventually, my dad's any indicator, eventually they'll be there. But the other thing we got to mention, too, just from a voting standpoint is, and some people have voted in their new districts.
Yes.
But not everyone has. If you're an unaffiliated voter, right, you didn't vote in a primary or something like that. So remind people that every 10 years the districts change, the lines change. So you got to make sure you know where you're voting, because the last thing you want to have happen if there's long lines on the 6th of November.
You wait all that time
and you go to the wrong place. So really, do yourself a favor. You can call any of us. You know, you could email the address on the screen, call City Hall, but make sure you know where your polling places are. They have changed, and I would say probably 30% of the city, 25% of the city residents are going to vote somewhere different than they voted probably the last 10 years. So please look out for that before you go voting. Yeah.
So he's talking about primarily in the city of Hartford and the state of Connecticut.
That's right. Sorry, just Hartford, Connecticut.
Right.
Although across the state,
so
some polls have changed too. Yeah.
So those of you, no matter where you are, check ahead of time to make sure if your voting place has changed, that you know exactly where that is. If no matter what state you're in, no matter what city you're in, be sure to know where you vote prior to that voting day, because like Matt Ritter said, you don't want to wait and get in that long line just to find out that you're not at the correct voting location.
Not only that, but you should bring an ID with you.
And be sure to bring identification. If you have identification that has your picture on it, be sure to bring it.
A light bill, gas bill.
Piece of mail works.
Have something. Absolutely.
Library card, a late payment.
Whatever it is that has your name and your address,
that's right.
Make sure that you bring that with you to the polling places. I know there's been a lot of conversation about what people have to have, and I always get puzzled. Like if you go to cash a check or you go to a bank and they say, well, do you have a valid ID? A valid ID to me, this is RJo. A valid ID to me is something that has my picture and my signature on it. The fact that I have an outdated driver's license, I'm going to the bank. I'm not coming here to drive. It's not valid. How's it not valid? It's me. It's my signature. That's all you need for your purpose. I'm not driving for you. I'm cashing a check.
And you talk about why it's important to vote Democratic, right? So remember the states of, you probably read about in the newspaper, Pennsylvania, Texas, the states where they tried to pass these rigorous voter identification laws. Well, that's done by your General Assembly. In Connecticut, we have
who you put in place.
Right, I'm a Democrat. I serve in the House of Representatives. We control the House. We have more Democrats than Republicans in the House. We have more Democrats than Republicans in the Senate. That's a big deal. Elections have consequences. And in the state of Pennsylvania, the Republican legislature said, let's make it really hard to vote. And oh, by the way, as a judge said, the laws that we changed have a disproportionate impact on older people and people who are African Americans basically living in the cities of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And so they struck the law down. But it just shows you that's why elections matter from the president on down, from top to bottom.
Absolutely. So when people start talking about and complaining about the laws that are being conducted or the laws that are being created in their cities and towns, remember, it's you who go to elect those people to office to put those laws in place on your behalf. So if they are creating laws that directly positively impact you, then the next term you need to consider putting somebody else in office so that the laws will actually impact where you are. In the state of Connecticut right now, we have a very new law that I'm so happy to say that we're greatly a part of, for child care providers to be able to organize and unionize, because most in-home child care providers are small business, micro businesses, and you need those laws to be passed in your favor. So places like Care for Kids and other state legislative laws are going to positively impact how you take care of children. And it is so very, very important that if more single parents are going to be able to get to work and pay taxes, that somebody's going to have to be able to care for those children, and that person needs to also make a living wage so that they can take care of their bills and their responsibilities while taking care of your children. So I know that also on the other side, Victor Luna, you run Luna Productions.
Yeah, but I wanted to say something before we got into that, because every time you go to door knocking, a lot of people talk about, oh, my voice don't count. My voice don't count. That's not true. Your voice does count. Because just the other day we had an election for the primary, and
Brandon was supposed to be here today, so don't tell him every vote don't count.
And he's door knocking in Windsor. God bless him.
Yes,
right now.
People that did the recount and then the other count, your voice does
absolutely, absolutely. Every single. It's like putting dollars in the bank.
And not only that, but the a lot of people that I talk to have felonies, and they say, oh, but I can't vote. Well, yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
You can't vote if you're on time for probation or parole, but you can't vote if you finish your time as a felony. So remember that.
Right. If you get all those things cleared up, you should check with your city and your town and your state to find out what the rules are for restoring your voter rights. So don't continue to be a victim for life in society because you made a mistake. Once you do your time, you do your time. Once it's over, it's over. When it's done, it should be done. So check with your local cities and towns and states to find out what the laws are so that you can get your voting rights restored, because that's one of the things that the government guarantees you. So ensure that you protect it, not only protect it but exercise it. We need every single vote this year. We cannot play around. Don't make the assumption that President Obama is going to be reelected. Get out there and do your part to ensure that he gets elected. And as we've said, make sure that you elect every single Democrat along with him, because if you want him to be smooth sailing in the second term and pass a lot of those laws that greatly impact you, he needs to have help.
Or how about the laws that will go away, right? Mitt Romney said, if
repealing.
I win, first day, health care is gone. So the fact that you think about health care in this country, and the thing that people don't even talk about what the president did, everyone now gets health care. But also, the pre-existing condition thing is something that is really personal to a lot of people. And basically, before the president's law, insurance companies could say, and now think of the scientific advances where basically people can almost tell you what things you may have, what you're, we all know what you have to look out for from your genetics and what's hereditary. And before that, insurance companies say, sorry, we're going to deny you because our studies show, or your family history says, you may have breast cancer or you may have diabetes or something like that. And we finally got rid of that law. We finally were able to say you can't deny someone coverage because of that. We all deserve it. And so all these things they want to get rid of. So it's not even what we got to get past, what they would take away. And to me, it's such a step back for our country. So,
it is really, but it's so funny. The whole time I was watching the Republicans, they would say, well, one of the first things we're going to do is that we're going to repeal Obamacare.
Say it every day.
Then you see them when they do the debates to go, well, you're going to repeal Obamacare? No, I didn't say that. For the last year and a half, you did say that.
That's right.
And that's all you were talking about was getting rid of Obamacare. So, and people need to be mindful of that. Don't listen to the wonderful sound bites that people shoot out. Do your homework. Make sure that you know what the facts are, what the reality is, how that is going to greatly impact you. Because if you can no longer get, and the other thing that always bothered me, I was military for 24 years. And the thing that bothers me, when you start talking about Americans getting things from the government and then other countries getting things from the government. So we want to ensure that other countries have, domestic laws, things that protect women and children, and have health care. And then when it comes down to us using our own money, because it's tax-paying dollars, our own money to provide health care for our own people, no, we don't want to give it. it's a handout. These people just want to be given to. No, it's your tax-paying public money that now you want to reap the benefit from because you need it. So, nobody should be fighting against that. So we have like a few more minutes. We just want to remind everybody that you are watching accesstv.org. Log into us often to see what is going on. There are several programs. You have your community updates with Lori, who comes on right before this show. So make sure that you tune in to Lori to find out what things are happening in the cities surrounding Hartford, Connecticut. And always tune in regularly and often to RJo Winch at All Politics is Local. Because it is. We're talking about people with things like what days you get your garbage picked up, when the sweeper comes around, what your tax rate is, where your children go to school, what schools are in your neighborhoods. All those things are political. Yeah. So you got to make sure that you stay in tune and that you get down to your council office, get to your mayor, have conversation with him. We'll have the mayor on one of these weekends. He can come on and tell you some things that are happening, inside the city of Hartford in Connecticut. So those of you who are interested in that, make sure that you do tune in quite often. So Matt and I served on a council together, and I will tell you, it's no picnic. It is no picnic.
I'll tell you, the one thing when you go as a representative, we did it 3 years on the city council together, and loved that experience. It really was. And at the legislature, sometimes there's this feeling of, right now you are more just as local as you ever were, and even though you're dealing with some state laws as opposed to local laws. It's the same thing. My Shepherd's Park story. I good fortune of in redistricting picking up a great complex in Shepherd's Park on Sisson Avenue there, and we had a meeting, and it wasn't Social Security, it wasn't the earned income tax credit, it wasn't the state budget. The first thing they requested was a left turn traffic signal on going down Sisson Avenue. They felt it was really hard to turn left, and they're senior citizens. They drive a little slower and a little dangerous, things like that. And they said, "Can you get it?" And we got it for them. And again, it's all local for them. Yeah. That was the biggest issue, and sometimes you forget that, and so always try to keep that in mind, that those are the things that people care the most about.
Absolutely. The things that people have to do the day-to-day living is what's important.
Drive by and you can turn left freely. It's a nice free left turn signal. I was there today, driving here because I was taking Sisson to Capitol, so I drove by. It makes me smile every time I see it.
So we're going to be talking with Angel Arce, who's going to be the new state representative. We hope in the 4th district about the same type issue, that left turn into the McDonald's. For some reason, somebody did a study that said if people were turning left, that it bogs down the traffic. I go that way often. I've never seen it. People go into the gas station, myself included, to turn around to turn right into McDonald's because you can't make that simple left. It's just a matter of taking down the sign, let people turn left. It's just that simple. So we talk about
And how's Angel's campaign going? You give us an update on it?
Angel's campaign is going pretty good. He had an emergency today, but he's going to be focusing on jobs, education, creating jobs, getting a lot of the funds to make sure that a lot of the after-school programs, senior centers, senior housing, to make sure that they are funded and they continue to be funded. And also, he's going to be stressing on the fact that a lot of the senior buildings have 20-year-old, 30-year-olds. Sure. So he's going to be, he's going to have his hands full.
And I'm sure that traffic control and traffic calming is very important to him because of his, personal experience. He lost his dad, from a speeding driver. Absolutely. So I'm sure that traffic control and traffic calming is going to be one of the things that's very important to him. Speed bumps in your community and those kind of things are going to be extremely important because of his personal experience, and his loss for such a tragic thing that happened to his family. So, and a lot of times when people are talking about, issues and things that are really passionate to them, when it happens to their family, they ensure that they try to do everything that they can to prevent it from happening to your family so that you don't have to go through the same thing.
Not only that, but he also visits other families that went through what he went through. So he's out there all the time and making sure that he's sticking to his guns.
So being an advocacy for those things that definitely touch your family's lives. So if you all have anything that you want to advertise on accesstv.org, feel free to get in touch with us. We'll make sure that those things get advertised for you. If you have things that are going on in your community that you need community updates, make sure that you also contact Access TV, and Lori will be sure to do the show before this one to make sure that you all have those things, because I don't want to to hear anybody else saying there's nothing to do in the city of Hartford. Get on accesstv.org. Lori's going to hook you up. She's going to make sure that you know exactly where to go.
There are a lot of events.
There are tons of
she's
events
mentioned
going
a lot
on.
of stuff going on, and across the city and even across the region. It was pretty cool listening to that.
And
So.
the good thing about it too, a lot of it comes into Hartford and a lot of it goes out to Hartford.
Sure,
So with
yeah.
the Hartford residents are going out and a lot of people are coming in.
Yep.
So we're sharing in the entertainment world. So
Absolutely. We were about 125,000 sleeping here at night. We're about anywhere from 375 to 400,000 by day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And then on the weekends, we double our population because people are coming in for activities. There were so many activities today, I couldn't even attend all of them. Matt, we graciously got over to the Senior Center to Vine Street because that was wonderful. That was a community who, state rep hadn't been there in many, many years. So we wanted to make sure that they knew there was a new state rep in town, and that state rep would come by and visit them and answer their needs. Their one thing that they had itching on their heart was a flag, so we got that delivered today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was great. Yep.
So they'll get back to us for the next thing.
And again, we talk about the show local, and again, they had issues and questions about other stuff, but it was a flag,
right?
And sometimes it's the things. Sometimes you're always looking so high for things,
right.
and sometimes
but it's a
you
little
remember
thing.
the little stuff, and always try to, it's always good for us to remember that as people who are involved in elected office and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Exactly. So when you start talking about people on the ground, you got to be talking about Democrats.
Yeah.
And the good thing about these new state reps that I'm looking at is that they're going to be working with each other.
Yeah.
You got McGee, you got Matt Ritter, you got Angel Arce, you got Ed Vargas, you got blah blah blah, and you got so many of them.
And blah blah blah.
And they're going to be, they're definitely going to be working together. They got a lot of new blood, and I'm actually looking forward to that.
One of the great things that you make a great point, one of the great things that I think with the new legislature coming on, that they are, people who are going to be working together. And the one thing that we have to fight against all the time is being a small urban city, is that there's 168 towns up there, and we have like about 4 or 5 urban cities in town. So we probably have like maybe 24 representatives from
the
Hartford,
suburban towns will always outnumber the cities. Yeah.
Exactly.
There's more of them.
So you got to always be able to collaborate and be able to sell your point to get them to vote, for your side. So you say, hey, I'm going to vote for yours. You got to come this way and vote for ours because we need some things too. And I feel good about that. You make a very good point. I feel good about the legislators that are going to be going up there. They're going to be definitely working for the people.
And I'll say this, we're going to miss, Marie Kirkley Bay and what a career she had. And Marie was a lion up there for 20 years, one of the longest serving state reps of all time. And, my dad loved serving with her for over 10 years, basically. But like you said, Marie's not going away. She's going to be there to help guide us. I know.
There you go.
She's been talking to Brandon and me all the time about stuff, so it's good. We have sort of people who will continue to be involved and also going to have some new blood. It's exciting. And I know the folks at the Capitol that I talk to are looking forward to meeting the new representatives. Hopefully everything goes well on November 6th and we'll hit the ground running. So
yeah, we're looking for that. So maybe they should have a states club, like they have the president's club. Like once you're a president, you're always a president, and they always get together and they always compare notes. So maybe we need a state legislature club so that when people are no longer elected, like Marie Kirkley Bay, your dad, other people, that they will always be a part of that.
It's a good idea.
You cannot ever negate the experience that people have. Like I tell my kids, you don't want to bump your head. You don't want to do that. Trust me, if you do that, that's going to hurt. Been there, done that. Right. You don't have to go there. Right. Some of those things are going to get through because people got hard heads. They want to go anyway and see, well, they said I'm going to bump my head, but I don't think so. Bang. I told you you're going to bump your head.
And city council, too. That. City council, too. That. I mean, as we serve there, like you said, that's a tough job.
It is tough.
You have much less infrastructure staff-wise than you do at the Capitol.
Exactly.
It's a tough job when you're coming in new and, you get your one sort of aid and then you're on your own, and here's the budget. Go vote for it, or go figure it out.
There's no training.
It's a tough job.
So we'll make sure that everybody remember that you're watching All Politics is Local with your host RJo Winch on accesstv.org. Be sure to get yourself out and everyone in your community voting on November 6th. Make sure that you vote for President Obama and the Democratic roll. Make sure that you also voting for your local Democrats because all politics is local.
Go B.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.